There we go. 5 seconds in. Good morning, friends. Day 431, 21, 31, 21, 431. Oh my God. Wow. Here we are. Hey there, friends. Thanks for coming by. My name is Toby. I am 41 years old and I am training to live an active, self-sufficient and adventurous life. I do so by minding my sleep, trying to get between 7 and 9 hours of training sleep in a night. Last night was 8, which is good. 7.5 hours of proper sleep according to my watch. So I'm guessing that was a good night. Trying to eat properly, eat by minding my nutrition, so eat within my energy balance, which is about 2300 calories. Try to eat within that, try to eat a lot of vegetables, fresh foods, and try to eat 120 to 150 grams of protein in a day to support my health, fitness, and training goals. I do strength training, I do conditioning training, I do mobility training. Sundays I go for a run. Throughout the week you'll see me using kettlebells for both strength and conditioning. And the off days I do mobility routine. And you can follow all of that live here on YouTube if you're interested. This is about the way I feel, not about the way I look. I would like to feel fit, capable, and competent for life. What that means is that I would like to be able to keep up with my children, set a good role model example for them in terms of what health and fitness is as they go through life. If dad can do it, we can do it, that kind of thing. And I understand that I might live to be 80, maybe 90, maybe even 100, but that my final decade might be riddled with disease and discomfort that is somewhat preventable. Barring any mechanical breakdowns or tragedies, I should be able to be rather spry and fit and chipper if I make some different lifestyle choices today, which I am consistently making by minding my sleep, minding what I eat, and minding my activity and my workout routines, really investing in the future. But it's fun. ASMR, sure. Thanks for dropping by and saying hello. I appreciate that. I hope you're doing well where you are in the world. It's actually a workout morning, but I think more people find my voice somewhat acceptable. You're not the first one who's asked about ASMR, though it's not intentional. It's just the way I speak, because it's 5:20 in the morning where I'm at. But again, thank you for dropping by, and I appreciate you dropping by and saying hello. And if you're interested in fitness and kettlebell, stick around because we're going to start working out in a moment. So, like I said, this is about the way I feel, not about the way I look. And I would like to feel fit, competent, and capable for whatever life throws at me. We're good just the way we are. We've got to love ourselves before we can move on. It's the person we are today who's going to get us to where we want to be tomorrow. And the only way to get anything done, friends, is by showing up and doing the work. Today we're going to talk about nutrition as we work out, because I'm preparing the talking points and script for a longer form video on the basics of nutrition, just for health and weight maintenance, basically. So that's what we're going to get into as we train today. I'm going to hit the timer, and we are going to start a short warm-up as we move into the kettlebell workout for today. We've got 80 kettlebell swings with 20 kilos. We've got 30 one-handed swings with 12 kilos on the left, and 40 on the left and 40 single-handed swings on the right. We've got some push-ups. We've got some squats. We've got some swing cleans that we're all going to get to. for the workout. So we're just doing a bit of a check-in every time we start with the body. How are certain joints and parts of the body moving during the walkouts to tell my body to get ready for some activities. And we're going to pick up a light kettlebell. And get warmed up. Deadlifts, swings, squats, rows. The second minute, just using the joints in my body the way they were intended for a bit, because we don't actually give our bodies enough opportunity to actually reach these positions and do something with them often enough in modern life. But we really, really should. There are some total benefits for us to work on our mobility and our range of motion. If you use it or lose it, you can regain some of it. You see, a range of motion little children have. I've got 2 young children. All of the positions they can sit in, drop down in, and stand up out of. And I have tried. When we say something comes natural at that age, when you're a toddler, a lot of things come naturally to you. And we forget that that is the case. Still just warming up. See how the body is moving. How am I feeling this morning? How hard do I think we're going to be able to go? Because we're in this to show up 7 days a week. What we need to be mindful is that we're working within our energy capacity for those 7 days and not wearing ourselves down one day so we can't do anything the next day, so we get tired by the end of the week. All right. Lightweight, just warming up. The deadlift motion seems to be fine. I'm going to do some swings, and then I'm going to go into the main activity, which is the 80 kettlebell swings with 20 kilos. All right, so let's talk about food and nutrition. And let's specifically talk about food and nutrition as a skill in life, something worth pursuing, something that we're able to learn, to get better at, and to adapt and change over time to our needs. Because if something is a talent or something is unlearnable, then there's no point in spending time on it. But nutrition, from understanding how nutrition works, to our needs, to proper shopping, to preparing the food, is a skill. And we need to put food into some perspective, all right? We need to think about food from different points of view, because food serves different functions in life to us as people. I'll name 3 to give you an example. So food can be something we consume for pleasure. We can want to experience the creations of a chef who can create flavor sensations that we wouldn't otherwise experience. That would be very welcome, and we would consume that food, whatever that is. That could be pastries, that could be a cake, that could be a 7-course dinner. Right? Well, we could try to enjoy all of that for pleasure, and that would be completely fine and a completely acceptable goal to at times eat foods because we enjoy eating them. We could also see food as a social thing. In many cultures, it actually is. Think about that family dinner, family lunch, think about that date, that dinner date. Think about a business lunch, or business dinner, or a big celebration, or wedding, right? Even at funerals, they will usually serve maybe not a meal, but some kind of food for the guests to, as they gather around to discuss the memory of the dearly departed. So food has a social function that we need to be aware of when we're considering the skill of food and nutrition, all right? But for our purposes, let's understand that we are not looking at food for the potential pleasure it can give us. Even though we do want to eat tasty food, food doesn't have to be punishment. We do not consider food in the social context. We are looking at food as functionally as we can for our health and fitness goals and outcome throughout life. And that's the lens through which we want to learn about food, understand the foods we're eating, and program the foods that we are eating 8 times. First set, second set coming up. All right, so the basics. Let's talk about the basics of fuel through that lens, the lens of planning, consuming food in relation to our health and fitness. That is the skill we're talking about. And that can be complemented and combined with the other 2 functions of food that we discussed. But predominantly, and this is the path to better health and better fitness in life. All right. Okay, second set down, third set coming up. Basics. Food is fuel, and understanding the energy balance between what comes in and what we expend. Right, what we eat and what we use. All right. So food is fuel. When we are sitting around doing nothing, we are still burning energy, using calories, expressed in calories. Third set coming up. Doesn't matter how still you sit, your heart's beating, you're breathing, your brain's managing all kinds of functions in your body. 5. All right, that's 8. Third set down, fourth set coming. All right. So your body basically, just to exist, requires a set amount of energy just to be on. We need to fuel that. How do we fuel that? Through food. We don't photosynthesize. We consume energy through the foods we eat, and our body translates that food into energy, breaks it down, discards the waste, and puts the rest to good use to fuel the energy output and to restore our bodies. Fourth set. Fourth set. All right. Fifth set coming up. So look, that's as basic as it gets when it comes to food, and understanding that process. So that even if food gives us pleasure, even if we're eating with friends or customers, or family, biologically the primary function of that food is to sustain us, to give us the energy to thrive and survive, right? Fifth set. So let's look at that concept of energy balance next, because I think the fact that food is fuel is probably the least contentious. Sixth set coming up. It's the discussion about how much we eat and what happens in our body when we eat too much or too little or enough. That draws a lot of eyeballs and misconceptions online. But the concept's very simple, right? Everybody is different, and everybody has different energy requirements within a certain bandwidth degrees. If you're a huge bodybuilder, 6-set coming up, or a mountain climber, you consume vastly different amounts of energy than, say, me, for example, when I'm sitting behind my desk writing emails. So consuming energy, just not as many as the person who's been bouldering for an hour or two on a Wednesday morning or Friday morning. Simple? Good. All right. So, energy balance basically means how much are we consuming, how much are we using, and are we using more than we're consuming? Are we consuming more than we're using? Or are we consuming as much as we're using? Are we in a surplus, deficit, or neutral? 7-set. All right. Energy balance. So we get food as fuel. We understand what energy balance is. It's not rocket science. It's relatively straightforward. There's a lot of science to back it up. And there are a lot of people who want to confuse you online because they're trying to sell you pills or a book or a program, talking about how fuel is not fuel and how fuel and energy balance are very complicated. It's not. Ask anyone who's been on a successful weight loss journey without buying all the bullshit and who's just been counting calories and eating within them. It is relatively straightforward and simple, and you don't need a $10,000 program. 7, 8. 7-set going to the 8-set. Could have been the 8-set, but I lost count, so we're at 7-set going to the 8-set. So it's going to be the 8-set. Next. All right. Relatively simple. Okay. What is different across different people is their goals and health outcomes, specifically the ones that they are after. So, eighth set, going into the 9th set. All right, so we already talked about the bodybuilder versus the mountain climber versus the desk jockey versus the endurance athlete, who's fueling for a very different type of performance than a power lifter who needs to lift the heaviest weight possible for a single rep. Going for the 9th set in a moment, right? It's a completely different ballgame. Looking at someone who works in construction, or a painter, carpenter, or someone who is a teacher who stands in front of a classroom, or an academic doing research, writing papers. And just so you know, we're probably made to be moving about 4 to 6 hours a day, right? Consistently walking, carrying, sprinting, climbing. So that 30-minute walk or bike ride in a day isn't going to cut it in terms of the activity we need to actually be fit and healthy. This 30 to 45 minute workout I do in the morning is only part of a larger scheme of living an active life day to day to get all those hours of movement in one way or another, at least more than two. And that was the 10th set. All right. Actually, I need that one. We're going to be doing rows and squats next. Yeah, we're still at the stage of 8 rows on the left, 8 rows on the right, and 1 minute. Oh boy. Oh, still working. All right. Was a little hiccup there, but stream seems to be working. All right. So we are now doing some conditioning work. Make no mistake. 5:44 a.m. We're doing 16 rows and 10 split squats, 5 left, 5 right. Every minute, on the minute. Let's go. By the end of this workout, we'll have hit all the main muscles in our bodies. All right. So, we talked about the different goals. Now, that's now let's talk about the order in which we want to think about the different goals. All right? Because we need to structure our approach to thinking and acting on food if it is going to really result in mastering the skill of eating the way we would want to. So how's that going to work? By the way, what I'm telling my body now is I wanted to be able to perform short bursts of intense output with little rest in between in preparation for a big hiking trip that we're going to take. A combination of walking uphill, which is intense, is coasting across the path that are horizontal and level. All right, so the order in which we're going to think about food we're going to use a little tool that I've used for many years, which Eric Helms put out on the internet, on YouTube. Old video, old school YouTube, but classic in terms of what it explains. There we go again, the split squats. All right, and he presents this idea of a pyramid. 4 levels, some base, 4 blocks on top. The base is where you can get the most improvement out of when you start. And then as you progress on this journey, you move further up into that pyramid, and you'll start to see different effects of a holistic approach to food in relation to health and fitness. Now, talked about different goals, different energy requirements, but also the basics is that food is fuel, and that we have this thing called energy balance. All right. So, what you want to think about is that the foundation of this pyramid is energy balance. Absolutely the beginning. Am I eating less, more, or exactly what I need? And how much control do I have on that? How much control do I have on that? Why is that important? Well, that's important for the health outcomes that we're after. If we meet our body's energy requirements, it means that it's able to do all of the things that it needs to do. It's able to function, to recuperate, regenerate, Alright, that was the last one of that. Move on to the one-arm swings. And after that, we still have some push-ups to do. Alright, so, by the way, if you want to drop by and say hi in the comments, feel free, go ahead. I'd appreciate the company. Alright, so bringing that input the next set is on the right, first set down. So bringing that into balance, because weight maintenance is a pretty good long-term health indicator of how well we're doing. It means we're consuming enough for what we need, our body's in balance, and we're not starving ourselves, cheating ourselves of the nutrients we need to function properly. We're not over-consuming, providing our body with too much energy, which at a cellular level leads to second set down, which at a cellular level, see, 5:52 a.m., leads to inflammation and negative health outcomes over time, right? So probably always going to be on a bit of a cycle throughout the day, throughout the week. We consume a bit too little, consume a bit too much, we consume enough. If we have very specific health outcomes or aesthetic outcomes or sports outcomes that we're after, we can now use this mechanism of energy balance to influence the results. For example, how much energy we actually have, or which energy source we're actually using. For example, are we using our stored sources of energy throughout the day, which happens when we're in a calorie deficit, or are we eating more than we need so that we're storing a surplus of energy for use at a later time? All right, so energy balance. And different goals will have a different energy balance. You've got a hard training day. You're working out 2-3 hours, continuously lifting weights, cardio, whatever. You're going to want to consume a lot more than on a rest day or the day where you're in the office, sitting behind your desk. Right? A day where we go out in nature for a hike. Very different food profile than when we sit around at home on a rainy day watching TV, because that's how fast our energy balance shifts. Simple fact of the matter is, it's fourth set. 6 more to go. The simple fact of the matter is that if you are used to biking to work every day of the week, biking there 15-20 minutes, biking back 15-20 minutes, and you have maintained your weight, but you take out that 20-minute bike ride there, the 20-minute bike ride back, but you keep eating exactly the same and don't change any other activities throughout the day, what do you think is going to happen with what we've just talked about? Fifth set. Hey, what do you think we're going to talk about? We are obviously going to talk about an energy surplus at this point. You're going to have more energy than you need because you've cut out 40 minutes of moderate activity. And that's probably only going to be 100 and 150 calories, maybe not even, on the day, all right? But give that a month, right? That's 3,000 calories. Suddenly, you're looking in the mirror, or you get on the scale and you're like, hey, where did that extra weight come from? Again, thought experiment about the mathematics of the energy balance. And I know this for a fact, because before Christmas, I was doing cleans, and lots of them. I was training a bit harder than I was today. Well, now I'm training hard again, but for about 2 months, I didn't train as hard. I actually had some gaps in my training. But I was eating more because it was the holidays, because it was dark. Okay? And guess what happened? I gradually put on weight because I shifted the energy balance from neutral to a surplus simply by ceasing a 30-minute activity in the day. 7th set. All right. So, the bottom of the pyramid, energy balance. That is where most of us can gain the biggest wins when it comes to our long-term health and fitness outcomes, all right? Simply understanding what it is and learning to understand where we're at on it. A couple of ways to find that out. Take a meal inventory. Just look at the types of food you're eating. If there's more than 5 times a week of takeaway in there, I don't need a very fancy calculator to reach a conclusion that you're consuming close to, probably even over, your energy balance. You're in a surplus, right? If all you're doing is drinking, that was the 8th set, going to the 9th set. If all you're doing is drinking water and eating watermelons, which is a completely stupid approach to nutrition from a health and fitness point of view, it's not going to give you anything in the long term. I don't need a calculator to understand that you're in an energy deficit. All right? If you're doing one of those juice detoxes, cutting out all the carbs and all the meats, basically just fasting with some vegetable mix poured into your stomach 3 times a day. You don't need it to detox, but that's a completely different conversation. But you are going to feel a bit lighter and better, because when we are in an energy deficit, what happens is we become very focused and very alert on the opportunity to eat. So in other words, when we're in a fasted state, we are seeking opportunities to top up on calories. And it takes a bit of mental effort to go through that. And get behind intermittent fasting, because you're meeting a calorie threshold throughout the day that is going to help you to function. I can understand religious, spiritual rituals that involve fasting for set periods of time. But even there, you see allowances are made for the small and the weak and the elderly. You're putting strain on your body and pushing it to limits when you create too big of an energy deficit or too big of an energy surplus. You can't keep up your training when you don't have enough energy to function. You can never burn off the surplus. If it is too six push-ups with the knee raise. All right. So, the base of the pyramid. Moving on to the second block in that pyramid is the balance between our macronutrients. All right? So the balance between our proteins, our fats, and our carbohydrates. And there are a lot of discussions about protein sources, which ones are better. It depends on your goals and on your personal preferences and your personal biology. There are a lot of discussions about fats, pretty clear which fats are healthy and unhealthy, and what happens when there is an excess amount of fat in your diet is that it is very easy to hit that energy surplus. All right, so you want to keep that in mind. Going, and then there's a lot of talks about carbohydrates. We're eating too many sugars, carbohydrates, but there's also carbohydrates in healthy grains and also in fruits, but also in basically all other foods that you can think of. And there's nothing inherently bad with any source of either. What matters is the quantity and composition on the whole of, in my case, the 20, 200, or this week 2,000 calories that I am trying to consume. Third set. All right. So I've been in a calorie deficit for about a week, and I can tell you I'm noticing a slight difference in energy level. It's not unmanageable, but I had put on a lot of weight, or a lot, 2.5, 3 kilos, and I had developed some poor habits in my nutrition choices. Fifth set, we're trying to turn that into a smooth motion, I believe. All right. So rebalancing my macros and my total intake is going to require some effort, but it's already paying off because I feel better. I feel more in control of my diet. I'm also seeing that excess weight is at least not increasing anymore. And probably give it a month, it's going to have completely gone. All right, final set. Here we go. And we're done for today. All right. Yeah, look. That was 45 minutes of training this morning. After working on the macro balance, we've got the micronutrients we can get tested for. Generally, a varied diet will deliver on them, but sometimes we need to move on from there into the next and the final step in that pyramid. But micronutrients are essential for essential functions, right? We want to make sure that we're in good ranges for those to keep yourselves healthy and fit. And then from there, we look at supplementation. You look at things like, well, I don't have any knowledge about it other than what I've heard on YouTube, so I'm going to shut up about that. But then you can look at supplementation, and I don't mean taking illegal substances, I mean taking things to top up those micronutrients, macronutrients, and also, you look at things like creatine, B12, D, omega-3, etc., etc. But that's a completely different discussion, because I think the biggest wins day to day we have that are generally no cost, managing our energy balance, we're bringing it down, or within our grocery budget, which is our proteins, fats, carbohydrates. Simple and easy as that. To make this very practical, the skill consists of what we buy, how well we are at preparing it, and how often during a week we actually consume what we buy and what we've prepared ourselves, all right, or what we've very carefully curated if other people are making our foods for us. Creating go-to meals that we know and understand how many calories to provide us, what the macronutrient profile is, how they're going to impact our energy level throughout the day, and consuming those. If we're talking 21 meals in a week, probably 19 out of those 21 meals, you want to be that deliberate about it. It starts in the supermarket, it starts with food prep, and then we learn the skill of buying, or of creating our menus, of buying, and then of preparing. Being consistent is one of the hardest things that we can do, all right? Especially when it comes to being consistent with the food, especially when it comes to being consistent managing our energy balance, because it's the things that give us most pleasure that are likely going to throw us off the worst. Like I said, 150 extra calories a day over the course of a month is going to result in something very tangible that you can see either in surplus or in a deficit. For those of you who are watching, my name is Toby. I am 41 years old, and I am training to live an active, self-sufficient, and adventurous life. I'm a personal trainer and health coach, kettlebell coach. At least I'll say I'll have the certification, so I know how to coach myself. I'm not your coach. I'm just making content to share my experience, but maybe important for you to know and understand. I'm not just making all of this up. I've actually spent some time and money learning about it. I try to mind my sleep, try to get between 7 and 9 hours in a night, mind what I eat, try to eat within my energy balance, try to eat a lot of vegetables, try to eat 120 to 150 grams of protein. I show up for strength and conditioning training, mobility, I go out for runs on Sunday, try to spend time with people I love and care about, do things that I enjoy, generally try to live a stress-free life, all right? This is about the way I feel, not about the way I look, and I would like to feel fit, capable, and competent for what life throws at me. The way I do that is I try to stay healthy and fit, and keep myself moving and able. Whatever your fitness journey is and fitness goals are, if you're interested in the conversation, go ahead, hit like, subscribe, let's continue the conversation. And remember that we're good just the way we are today. We've got to love ourselves before we can move on, because it's the person we are today who's going to get us to where we want to be tomorrow. All right, friend? A bit of kindness, self-love goes a long way in life, because there are enough people out there who want to be negative and put us down. Let's lift ourselves up. And the only way to get anything done, friends, is by showing up and doing the work. So hit like, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video, I hope. Bye.